Welcome to the Time CNC Podcast, your go-to show for precision, efficiency, and innovation in CNC manufacturing. We're here to help you cut time in all of your CNC endeavors. Whether you're a CNC enthusiast, CAD/CAM aficionado, or into robotics, this podcast is for you. Join us as we explore cutting-edge perspectives on machining metal parts. Discover the perfect tools and streamline your production processes. Precision meets progress on the Time CNC Industry Podcast. And now, here's your hosts, Al Martins and Stephanie Bate.
Hi.
Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know I say this almost every episode. I love that introduction. I should have been a DJ.
Not biased at all.
Remember that show WKRP in Cincinnati?
Actually, I do. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, that would have been. I think it would have blended right in. Not Les Nessman, but maybe, who knows? I might have been interested in the hog reports. Anyway, Steph, you're the co-host, and today you're the guest. Normally, you're in the background making sure that all things are going well. So let's see how well we do today.
Yeah.
I like the title.
I have to be doing multiple duties in this one, so if there's any glitches, you didn't see anything.
No, I see nothing. I hear nothing. And no more pen clicking, will you?
That wasn't me.
I don't know who that was, but yeah. Might have been me. I'm not sure.
Could have been. Yeah, you have your stress balls and stuff. So yeah, I was muted, so it couldn't have been me.
Yeah, couldn't have been you. So, small but mighty, harnessing social media power for manufacturing success. And I think, as we grow our bandwidth on this podcast, it's interesting to bring in different topics that will allow us to cover points that I think, manufacturing companies think about, but maybe don't really engage in. And you've been with us for a few years, and it's been a real, I think, success story for us in the working of our websites and our traction, both in the world of Fence Armor and in CAM Solutions and in Tool Manager IQ and all the different touch points that we've got. Somebody asked me today, what's the point in doing a podcast? Why bother? And I said, is it really worth it? It's kind of like working out. You do a workout today because you suddenly feel motivated. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You do the workout, and is there any difference other than the next day where you feel pain?
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's the difference. So you say to yourself, "Oh my God, this is not worthwhile doing." But it can take months, even years, before you see any change, right?
Yeah. And
I thought, it's not much different really in, I think, the conversation we'll be having together. It's gonna take a while, but if you never start, then you'll never have that, right?
If you don't try, you fail. They've heard a saying like that.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And at least if you tried and failed, you've succeeded in trying. Mm-hmm. And then you try again some other way, right? So
exactly right.
So we're back on our regular schedule now, right? So today will put us back online for our every other week podcast, and then next on the 30th we'll have our other podcast, and again we'll have something on the website about who that will be. We have a couple of different guests that are chiming in for that particular spot. So, Steph, tell us a little bit about you. We see you every week, every other week, and you're just the the co-host. Tell us a little bit more about how you got to be the co-host.
Well, I've been with you for about, I don't know, I'm coming on 8 years, I think. And obviously, I grew up being surrounded by this world due to my mom being in the industry as well. And yeah, I've always had I think growing up in the age I did, social media was very big. And I always had a passion for being creative. So it just was a natural wing. The older I got, what could I do that, sustained me and also sustained my creativity? And yeah, social media was it. And I kind of fell into the lap of CNC world. And yeah, from there, I've just been learning and growing and kind of self-taught, if you will, in the world of social media, but it's kind of in my blood being my age. We come out of the womb with a phone at that point. So yeah, I'm still old enough to have seen like what technology was beforehand and saw the growth and the natural evolution of it. So yeah, it just kind of felt destined and right for me to be in this world.
You know what a floppy disk is?
I do.
Yeah. You've actually used one?
Yeah, back when I was younger, that's how you could put things on the floppy disk. I had like CD, I had the big Walkman that you had to actually like put headphones that went over your head.
You had a cassette?
Yep.
Wow. Look at you. You're old.
I'm a millennial.
Well, that's super. And before you decided to get into social media, what were you thinking to do? Where did you go? What did you do? When you came out of high school and they told you had to go to school, keep going in school so we can propagate our salaries and keep the government rolling. No thought about what your destiny was. They were thinking about their own.
Yeah, I always wanted to be an actor growing up. Funny, because I hate public speaking, so I will be reading from a script. But I always liked, being on stage. And then growing up, you just hear that's not a reliable way to make a living. So I went to my other passion, which was true crime, which many fellow people my age and more have a passion for. And I grew up watching Criminal Minds, and then I was like, I'll be a criminal mind. And then I went into criminology for I think half a semester, and then quickly realized it's a lot of math, and there's a reason I'm in social media.
Is there a lot of math in crime?
Yes, in real life, criminology is based on like mathematics, like statistics of crime and stuff. So it's not, going out into the field and catching them. It's statistics, and that's just a whole lot of math that I didn't want to do.
I've learned something myself. I when you see these crime shows, you never see them out with a calculator.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of, you're not really going into the field. So
you're behind the scenes analyzing what are the chances and probabilities that this guy is really a criminal.
Exactly. I think there's a lot more to it, but it's been a couple of years since I've been there. So yeah.
I think the new term, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of weird when they say it's been a minute. It's actually been years, but they use that term a lot, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm a little bit out with the hip lingo sometimes. Yes.
Well, the show has 10 questions.
Yes.
And of course you do, because you'll be popping them up like you have every other time. It's not like we got another co-host for you, and I appreciate you doing both. But I do think it's important that we talk about how social media and in general awareness is important to companies, even though they may be, as it were, behind the scenes manufacturing parts. If they have a web presence, it makes sense. So I'm going to let you speak to that, and we'll get to question number 1. So why do you believe having a strong social media presence is critical for your small manufacturers, especially in today's digital age?
Okay, they're not gonna be on the screen for very long because I can't think and so
I can't think and watch at the same time.
it'll just sadly it'll be left there for the whole episode. But
All right.
okay, so I am going to read and hopefully sound natural at the same time. But I
I
did
don't know, that's like some politicians, if they don't have it up on their monitors, they can't be able to answer on their own. But you're smart enough to do that. You don't need a teleprompter.
I know, but it's a fail safe.
All right. All right. Fire away.
But really, in the grand scheme of things, in this day and age, it is the most cost-effective way to get your name out there. But more importantly, it is a way to connect like directly to your customers. Everyone's on their phone. Everyone has a laptop for the most part. So, in the world of traditional marketing or word of mouth, social media is a way to showcase to a wider audience in real time. So it's also a way to build trust. So you can share behind the scenes, customer testimonials, product demonstrations, and you get to, like I said, in real time, talk to your customers and followers directly. And it just can help you gain visibility, trust, and staying top of mind because you are out in the world constantly. That's what they say. Consistency is key. So it's definitely the way the world is going. And if you don't hop on the bandwagon, you're going to be left behind.
Okay, so effectively, being a small manufacturer doesn't mean you have to have a small presence.
No, absolutely not. And like anything, you can grow. And social media is a great way to make a small company into a big company. You never know what it can be done, and the way that you can not only connect to your customers but also fellow companies and understand each other. And it really is about connection. And I think that is one of the most beautiful parts of the social media is now, companies are not just a company. They have faces, they have people behind it. There's funny videos showing behind the scenes, really actually connecting, which is awesome to see.
Well, good. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, number 2, what are some common misconceptions small manufacturers have about using social media effectively?
I think one of the biggest ones, and you kind of mentioned question 1, when you think a small company, you think that you have to spend a lot of money to get somewhere, or if I'm not already a big brand, nobody will care. But you matter, and one of the biggest things is sometimes when you're small, you have a tight-knit community that really cares for what you have to say and what you put out, and there will always be people who follow you and hear what you want to say. And oftentimes there are a lot of silent followers and supporters who may not comment, but what you're putting out there is really helping them. So it is a powerful tool for any business, and you get to really niche down and connect to your specific audience. And it really isn't just about selling. It's about building a relationship, educating, and just like showcasing, whether that's your expertise or just knowledge in general, I would say.
All right. So what you're saying is, how can they use it effectively? Do they need to have an onboard person like you do, like we have with you? Or can they do it on their own? How can they get up and started? What do you think? Do they need a special person?
It's a hard question because it is a lot of work. It does take a lot of time if you really want to put a lot into it and be successful. And oftentimes a lot of people don't have the time for that, or they don't have the extra bandwidth to really dive into that. It's definitely something I believe any business could do. You can start sharing things, and we all have a quick and easy mobile device where you can take pictures quickly, but it's depending what your goal is with it. If you really want to take it somewhere, I do recommend having somebody. I think it makes a big difference, especially as you know, when I come in and we're filming content. If you had to do that all by yourself, it would be very overwhelming. And nowadays you do have to have a level of strategy, and so it is a big task. It can be done, but it depends what your goal at the end is.
Well, yeah, I can see that, but I'm just trying to think of, a small shop that may have less than 10 people, maybe, having a guy out in the shop with just a video camera. And when I say video camera, I mean an iPhone or an Android. Video cameras are long gone. Might already bring a lot of presence, but I think, to your point, having somebody dedicated will make all the difference in the world for being professional on that side of things.
Absolutely. I think there's a upcoming question this, but you can even allocate a little bit of time each week and use somebody who's already in your shop and just take away from another task, batch content, and then you have it ready to go. So it is possible to use your resources and your people that you already have, but it really is in everything, how far do you want to take it, right? So but I absolutely possible. And again, it's the starting somewhere. It's better to start than never start, and you can always build and grow. And I think as long as you're doing quality thing like posts that bring value, then the amount of times you post doesn't always matter, as long as you're bringing real value to them.
Yeah, and you're right. We're getting into some other questions, but really good points there, Steph. All right, so number 3, for a small company with limited resources, what social media platforms should they prioritize and why?
Again, this comes to your goal, because each social media page holds a different group of people, a different goal. Like, for instance, LinkedIn is your B2B space. It's great for connecting with industry professionals, sharing company updates. That's where you really establish your expertise. So if that is what your goal is and what you're looking to do, absolutely great. Where the other ones, Instagram is more based on visual. So if you have products that are visually appealing, or you want to be a little more relaxed and show behind the scenes, it can be great for that. And also, you can share stories and posts a lot easier on your own story, so you're able to connect with your audience in a way that is different from the other social media networks. It's a little more relaxed, where Facebook is very traditional, but you can cast a wide net. There's a broader audience on there. And then YouTube, that's where you get your how-to videos and your product demos and your educational content, and evergreen. Like, you can always go back to it and you can always share it. And then for the bonus, the new one for not even the younger generation anymore, I think it's for everybody, but TikTok, which is really and it's the short form content, the quick, like, virality. It doesn't have that same followers don't mean the same thing on TikTok that they do on the other platforms, but it is a way to like really boost yourself and get out there. So each has their own and their level of seriousness and how you approach it, but they all cater to a set way. So it's cool.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And did you mention X or Twitter?
I didn't. Not on this, but there are more.
I don't know why. What's your thought on that?
Twitter has always been one that, to be honest, has confused me. It definitely seems it's a tough cookie to crack. It can definitely be very successful, but it's very fast paced. Like when you read up on it, you have to be tweeting like 7 to 10 times in a day, and it's not always, like we'll talk about later, it's better to focus on a couple platforms that you really think will be successful and you know your audience is on than all of them, and you're just pumping out whatever you can to get it out. So
right.
Yeah, but Twitter, absolutely, people have found success and love it. So
okay. Who goes there?
Yeah.
Do you have a company dog over there?
Yeah, she came home and now she's barking.
and there you go. Damn it, Jim.
Still going.
Oh, this will make it easy. All right, well, let's jump into number 4. Can you share some examples of small manufacturers who have successfully leveraged social media to grow their businesses?
Absolutely. So to keep it, in the family, in our world, one that really did a good job that stands out is the Machining Center. So they've really leveraged YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and definitely have that way of engaging with their audience. And it's really awesome to see the way they share the educational content, and especially on their YouTube, there's kind of that personal feel that you are like almost sitting in a classroom and learning, and you have others around you. So, they engage with industry trends and company achievements and interactive posts, and that's very similar to GibbsCam, who does it across, YouTube, X, Twitter, same thing, LinkedIn and Facebook, and they also do YouTube. And I think one of the greatest things about the manufacturing world is how they are using YouTube as a great platform to showcase that education and it's at your fingertips. So they definitely do a really great job, especially with the trade shows and all of those pictures. If you miss it, you still feel involved and you still feel like you're a part of something. So they definitely have done a really great job and stood out to me. So,
well, you say the Machining Center, and of course I know the team there well. What's interesting is they're in a rural area, and they certainly, they're a medium-sized company, but their impressions are quite high. It's amazing how many people they're able to intersect with. And the key, I think, was really they were putting out content, I would say daily, if not even a couple of times a day. And who doesn't like that, impression of looking at a machine, turning something or milling something? You can almost smell the chips coming off the machine. And I think it engages a lot of people. And for a guy who's in a machine shop every day, they just don't consider it. Mm-hmm. So, being in the industry, a lot of people have no idea what a machine shop is like. They have no idea what the sounds, the smells, and what the realities are. So, they have those oddly satisfying videos where things are happening, and let me stare at this a little longer. What's going to happen next? And I think that's really worked for machine shops. And I think it's a real easy way. I mean, even if you have time lapse or you have whatever um, cameras, focused on a particular job or a GoPro inside of a machine.
GoPro, you can even just like put it on your chest and show what you're working with, and gives that real feel that you're in it.
Yeah. Manufacturing is an important thing, and we need to reshore it, and we need to continue to grow it and getting people's attention, because certainly they're not seeing it anywhere else. I think it's an important thing, and I'm glad we covered that. So whether it's small, medium, large, the large companies, of course, they probably don't really care. But the medium and small companies who are looking for work and looking to get recognized, I think it's a great idea for them to do that.
I think there's a lot said for a small audience. Like, you really get to connect. Like, I don't know if it's for lack of caring with bigger, but obviously the bigger you get, the more notifications and the easier it is for things to slip or get unnoticed. So there's a lot of community and collaboration, and just in a smaller community, it can be really good.
Yeah, and if we think just of bigger companies or bigger organizations, we think of SpaceX. I mean, they're incredible as far as their social media goes, and I mean, they're building rockets and going into space. I mean, it's
Thursday.
they can't get much bigger than that. But being able to see what's happening almost real time with them, it's pretty amazing. So it's nice people like to see the inside. And I think you've always told me that too. And sometimes we just think, well, who's going to want to see this? Well, people like to see the inside, eh?
They do.
All right. I better stay on time here. I don't have anybody poking me. What are some of the key strategies or types of content that work best for manufacturers on social media?
Great question. Well, we've definitely touched on it, but educational content is really big, especially in this world. The tutorials and the how-to guides and product demonstrations, we've definitely used it ourselves. It's a great way, even in an email, to quickly be like, oh, you're looking for this? It's on our YouTube channel. So it's always kind of there. And again, the behind the scenes footage, I think especially today, we are going away from, businesses being just an entity, and now they're being a group, a team. You feel like you're a part of it, sharing work events or team building or trade shows. You really feel like you are a part of something, and people really, really enjoy that, to see behind the curtain, if you will. I think it goes a long way. And even, success stories, like testimonials, do really, really great. And seeing, nobody talks to a customer like a fellow customer. They speak the same lingo. You trust in what they're saying because they're also experiencing it. So that is really a huge benefit on any social media. And to kind of fall into that too is like employee spotlights and company. So, highlighting when a team member goes above and beyond, or showcasing your customer or your company culture, it really adds a human touch to your brand. And I think, especially from my own eyes, I think that really makes a difference when you have that connection, and when people care, it will go a long way. So, yeah.
Almost brought a tear to my eyes.
I'm
You're very passionate about this topic for some reason. I have no idea. Well said. I like that. I mean, and I think people can recognize authenticity, don't you think?
Absolutely. I don't think you can fake authenticity. I think people, it's not even, it's a feeling, and you don't even have to say it, but people feel it.
Yeah. And I think from the consistency of we'll say the broadcasts, they'll be able to get an idea of the theme of the message that company's trying to give out.
Oh, yes.
Whether it's, maybe productivity, quality, sustainability, all of those things can be really portrayed over a video, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important too. It's part of, when you're starting your social media journey, they always say, like, write what your goal is. And those goals will always transfer into your posts and even the words you write and the captions, the hashtags. It really is all encompassing.
Yeah. Well, that's good. All right. Well, let's get on to number 6. How do you measure success on social media? And what metrics should small manufacturers pay attention to? And I know we've had this conversation more than once.
Yes. I don't get asked about it ever.
Damn it, Steph. Give me some more results.
Never heard that. No, one of the biggest, obviously, is your engagement metrics. So that's your likes, shares, your comments. This really is the biggest indicator of how your audience is taking your content, and it can tell you if you're doing something right or wrong. And it really is important to pay attention to feedback, and that is where growth is. That's where, even when you get a negative comment, that is a moment for growth, and it's important not to come off aggressive and use it as a path to educate, or just it really is an educational opening. So those are definitely the biggest. And you have your post reach and your impressions, so that shows how many people are seeing your content, and understanding that is helpful for product launches or important updates. You kind of gauge who will see and how many will see. Obviously, with all of these things on all of the social medias, you can enhance them with pay advertisements, but there is a lot of growth that can happen organically. And then you want to pay attention to your click-through rates, which is, when you post links, how many people are moving from that social media page to your websites or your landing pages. And yeah, return on investment is a little harder to track, especially when you're smaller, but all of those pieces together can kind of paint a picture and help you gauge how well it's doing. But again, it's not going to happen overnight. Hinted.
No, it goes back to that whole thing about working out. Is it really worthwhile?
Exactly.
Should I be working out again tonight? I didn't see a difference from yesterday. But you got to build a base. And I think, the metrics, the social media platforms that we engage in or that customers engage in, they provide kind of a systematic metric scenario, do they not?
Yeah.
So, when say it's Facebook or it's YouTube or whatever, Instagram, Pinterest, what do you think gives you the best metrics, easiest to follow, or are they all about the same?
They have similarities throughout all of them and differences, but I would say Facebook is really laid out in the way that you can go into insights and you can find, your reach and your comments and your likes and your follows. It definitely can be the most straightforward. But there are things that help with that, like the Google Analytics. It paints like the whole picture because it is Google. But you can directly see some of those metrics right away. Like on Instagram, you sign in and you can see, your followers and your likes right up at the top. And even with TikTok, it tells you on the very top where your followers are, how many likes you have. So all of your videos together. So it's hard to say which one is more straightforward. It's also your level of understanding. It can definitely be a little confusing at first, but there's like tutorials on YouTube and stuff that you can follow that, many of us have, but they're pretty laid out nowadays. Like, they want to make it as easy. Pinterest can be a little more complicated because there's.
Well, I think you can do A/B testing on thumbnails, can't you?
Yeah, on YouTube now you can. Yeah, which is very exciting.
It's kind of interesting that, the thumbnail you think would be the best one is oftentimes not the one people click on.
Something I've noticed in my own creation, it's oftentimes things I don't like that other people like, and it is helpful. Social media is one of the greatest ways to change your perspective or learn a different way of thinking. So it is really cool with that.
I was talking to somebody today, it's, about wine, it has nothing to do with this particular topic other than it's related in the sense that, somebody can hype up a wine that is really not a very good wine. It's industrial, it's made in vats and stainless steel vats. It's not aged properly. It's not anything properly, but hey, stick a label on it and put on some commercials and put on some young people enjoying it. And it's the hottest wine ever known to man. How did that happen? And, did that company sell for $1 billion? Because they spent money on marketing. Mm-hmm. And I think this is just the reality. Humans, including ourselves, are, easily swayed. Is it VHS or beta? It doesn't matter who's better. It just matters who says they're better and get enough people convinced.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially in today's world, when something goes viral and they're selling a product, a lot of people will click buy before they've even really done their research on the product because so many other people are doing it. There's that trust in the fellow consumer. So yeah, virality can make a very, very big difference.
Yeah. So yeah, you got to get in the game, I think, if you want to, be in the industry and stay in the industry in today's society, I would say. Yeah. Especially if you have any web presence at all. If you don't have a web presence, probably this isn't going to really help you much, I'm going to say, to a certain degree.
And there are some companies who have never been interested in social media and they have a word of mouth that works for them and they're happy with where they are and that works for them, and that's awesome. But yeah, definitely social media can be a powerful tool and it can really help you spread a message.
All right, let's this time is going by really quick.
Yeah.
Let's get on to number 7. What is the role, I love this, of storytelling in social media for manufacturers? And how can they make their technical processes more relatable to a broader audience?
Okay.
I love that storytelling thing because it really is storytelling.
It is. It absolutely is. And it's one of my favorite parts. Just collecting my thoughts here. Stumped me. I was focusing. That's where the multitasking stumped me.
What are these words at the bottom of my screen?
Well, I think, especially to connect to a broader audience, and it's humanizing the brand. I think, sharing the story behind your company's founding or your mission or the people who work behind the scenes, like, me coming on here when I'm normally behind in my safe bubble.
Yeah.
That level of, it is storytelling, because everybody's life is a story, and what you bring to the table is a story. Um, so it really does, again, it always comes back to that connection, and not just being a brand, but people behind a brand. And, you know, one of the best ways, I think, especially with something like the manufacturing world, where it's technical processes and it can be very detailed and a lot of jargon, for lack of a better word. It can, help you focus on, instead of the technical details, it can focus on the problem that was solved, and the story of that. And, even creating the content, instead of overwhelming your audience, you can break it into step-by-step narratives. And always, I think the biggest thing with social media is you want to be bringing value. That is always the end goal of any content, is value. What value did I add? And that can be as simple as, an entertainment value, or literally giving them knowledge. So there is different, factors that come into play. But I think at the end of the day, storytelling brings value, and everybody has a story to tell, no matter what company or.
No, I like that. And I think the advice you give, if you're able to expose somebody to new knowledge or new information, or information they haven't been aware of yesterday, it's always worth a like. It's always worth a subscribe, because there might be more knowledge. I think some people call them golden nuggets. There's always some kind of knowledge that you can grasp from a different perspective. And, I think in today's society, just in general, I mean, we can go off on a tangent, but, families aren't as close as what they used to be, literally, because they're spread throughout the country. Somebody might be in Florida, somebody might be in California, somebody's in Minnesota. They're all over the place. Whereas before, families are much tighter. So, it's not like you can talk to Uncle Joe about something. So when you can get onto a podcast, or you can learn something that might be valuable about a specific topic. So in this case, we're looking at storytelling and manufacturing. If we can talk about, how this particular brand of end mill was able to save me this much time in manufacturing, or how this process in cutting was able to save me this many dollars in our process, it goes a long way, because now there's value to that particular social media, whether its platform has come from YouTube or somewhere else. They're going to want to learn the next thing that might make their businesses more successful. I think that's what you're saying, is it not?
Absolutely. And I think too, there's something to be said for, sometimes it's scary asking the question, or you don't know exactly what question you're trying to ask, or what knowledge you are looking for. And when you happen upon, or that particular piece of knowledge is shared, A, you didn't have to ask for it, and B, you have that knowledge now, and you can go back to it. I think that's one of the best things, especially about YouTube. You can go back and save that video and rewatch it as many times as you need to understand, or to, lean back on. So yeah, there's a ton of value there.
Agreed. So whether you're changing a toilet valve, or you're working on a CNC machine, there's a lot of valuable info, and some of it you really have to take and double check, because sometimes people put things on social media that aren't exactly right.
Yes.
And it's not like there's any liability. They just stuck it on there, and maybe that's actually how they did it. And you realize, wait a tick, that just ain't right. So I guess there is that too, isn't there?
Always. Yeah. Good fact. For sure.
So it's worth maybe checking out 2 or 3 different opinions on the same subject before you just narrow yourself in on one.
But I know even on a personal level, you know, we are in the age of like React. YouTube is big on React, but I can watch the same kind of scenario being talked about by like 3 different creators, and they all bring a different perspective. So even though the information is still the same, they're telling it in a different way, and they're seeing it from a different point of view, of maybe a way I wouldn't have thought of or another creator didn't think of. So I'm it's the same scenario, but it's still different. And I think that's the same with information. It can still be correct and right, but it can be taught in a different way that maybe the other way you didn't understand, but you understand it how in this way it was taught. So I think, even not so much fact checking, but on a level of understanding, it can help to see it in multiple different ways.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I agree with that. All right, let's get on to number 8. How can manufacturers overcome the challenge of creating content consistently with a small team or budget?
I did absolutely talk about this a little bit. I think, one of the biggest things is repurposing existing content. I think that is often forgotten in especially today's world, because it's so fast paced. You always got to be coming up with something new and fresh, but you can take, for instance, like a single blog post, and it can be broken down into social media posts or infographics or even video snippets. You can take the word and speaketh it. But I think there's a lot of consistency that can come from that. And the same is with batch content creation. So like I mentioned earlier, you can pick a single day or, a couple days in a month and create a bunch of content to be used that you can schedule out over time. And you can even repurpose that, because a big thing with social media is you can have a video that goes viral and then you can reshare it a couple months later, because obviously it went viral for a reason and it did well and there's value to be added. So, and it's so fast paced in this world that it can be lost. So to be reintroduced in the world, it can bring value again and maybe to a whole new audience. So, batch content is a great way. I've done it personally and it absolutely helps. And I think especially, they call it user generated content, but it really is customers sharing their own experience, or even if they share a picture or give a testimonial, you can repurpose that in your own way, or you can get them to create a video testimonial. And I think oftentimes it's forgotten that it doesn't have to be a big production. It doesn't have to be like lights, cameras, and the more genuine and real it is, that can go a long way as well. So you can even whip out your phone when you're with a customer and ask them to do a quick video testimonial. So all of those things can be easily done if you make the time for it. And it really is, we all have a very nice phone in our pocket that can do a lot more than it could in the olden days.
In the olden days, yes. I remember the olden days. Yes, very well. Well, I think, my thought here is a small team or budget, and you've kind of covered that. You don't really need, unless you count, time as money, and it is. But oftentimes, being able to go out into the shop and video something cutting or something unusual happening in the shop, maybe some heat treat or something that is not common to somebody else that you could share, will immediately draw some interest. And I think you've told me this many times, it's about consistency too. If I come back to this channel, am I going to see something new, or is it going to be the same old? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a reason why, magazines came out with different issues every month, because one issue wasn't enough. Yeah. And, when in the old days, as it were, when you were in the grocery store and they had magazines just by the checkout counter, it was always kind of sort of the same thing. You 6-pack in 2 weeks, or lose 40 pounds in a day, or things that were just completely impossible. But you'd look at the pictures and say, oh, that's interesting. How can I get a 6-pack in 2 weeks? How is that possible? Look at that guy. And they show a picture of a guy who's been doing this since he was 12. And you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think consistency is key, but also there's another point to that coin too, because you knew what you were getting every time you picked up that magazine. And I think a lot of people get lost, and I have to have these great ideas, but if you consistently put out what your audience takes value in, and it can be new content, but it can still be done in the way that's comfortable and known to your audience, and then people know that what they're coming back for. That's why people subscribe to certain creators, because they know that their style. And I think there's a lot to be said about that too. Consistency in both ways.
Yeah, very well said. All right, number 9. What advice would you give to a small manufacturer that's just starting with social media but feels overwhelmed by the process?
That is very, very real. It can be overwhelming. I think the biggest thing is to start small, stay focused, and build momentum over time. You're not going to build Rome in a day, or what is that saying?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Rome wasn't built in a day.
There we go. That's it. I did mention it a little earlier, but I think the biggest thing is to define your goals. So it truly does look different for every company. But you want to understand what it is you want to achieve. Are you trying to generate leads? Are you trying to build brand awareness? Or do you just want to showcase your expertise? Do you want to use it as a tool? And definitely focusing on quality, not quantity. You can still be successful and consistent and not maybe be posting 4 times a day. It's different for everybody how consistent you are. That could be 3 times a week, but you are uploading 3 times a week every week. So definitely something that has helped us personally is having a simple content calendar. So it helps you keep organized and definitely reduces stress, because you know what's coming, or you know what you've planned already. And you can use those tools like Hootsuite and all of those to plan in advance, so it takes a little bit of the legwork off. And I think like the closing of that is be patient and stay consistent, because
well, but I think too, you don't have to hit every platform, right?
No.
And maybe if you just focus on what one platform to start, would you say?
I personally think start on 1 or 2 and get really good at them, and then you can figure out how to maybe add, or maybe it is just those 1 and 2 for you. So I definitely wouldn't overwhelm yourself with being on everything, because especially with the way social media works, is a lot of platforms, their goal is to keep you on the platform. So when you show love to them, they're more likely to show love to you. So if you're spreading yourself thin, it's not going to show as much love. But yeah, definitely start on 1 and get really good at it.
Yeah. And would you recommend any particular platform to a small manufacturing company or medium size?
I do think there is a lot to be said about Facebook. It is a broader, but I think there's a lot of comfort level that can be familiar and friendly, and make it easier to start. But I think YouTube is a really great platform. It definitely is the evergreen. It is always there, and there's a lot of growth that can be had. And I think a lot of people turn to YouTube for education, and I think manufacturing, there's a lot of education to be had, and a lot of accessibility that people are looking for. So I think between those two, it can be really beneficial, in my personal opinion.
No, and I appreciate that. And I think, as we see tradespeople, I think for every 5 tradespeople that are retiring, there may be only one coming into the field, sadly, due to what's happening in our education system. But they have so much value. So maybe before, our audience and our machinists and our guys retire, think about doing some YouTube videos about things that you can share. Think of the audience as your apprentice, and what it was like for you to grow up in the industry and what things you found valuable. I mean, machines are still machines. So it might be of value to have the old timers, we'll call it, the seasoned veterans before they retire to share some of their knowledge.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to inspire.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that gets us to our last question. Woo-hoo. And you're off the hook. Looking to the future, how do you see social media evolving for manufacturers, and what trends should small companies be prepared for?
There are many trends.
Yes.
I think the biggest one is definitely the focus on video content, as you can see from, Facebook and Instagram introducing Reels, and then the rise of TikTok. It definitely is one of the most engaging forms of content, and it will only continue to grow. And I think it's, like we were discussing, it's an excellent opportunity to showcase products, processes, and even provide virtual tours of the facilities, like you were talking about, getting that kind of, and it could even inspire new tradesmen to come because they're like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. And then I definitely think on the talk of video content, live streaming and real-time engagement is only going to continue to grow, and I've definitely roped Al into doing a few live streams. That I think it's a great way to, directly connect with your audience, and you can do live Q&A sessions, even like behind the scenes tours and product demonstrations, and it's that real-time connection that is really like nothing else that you're putting on social media. And you can actually put a face to a name of all the people following you and have that discussion, which, yeah, that can't be beat, as the kids say. And then I think kind of lastly would be the emphasis on sustainability and corporate responsibility. I think, especially with the younger generations, definitely sustainability. We've talked about it on past episodes of the podcast, how important that is. So I think that's going to definitely only continue to grow as well.
Well, that's well said. You put that together nicely. And, we don't know. Well, nobody knows what the future has to say, but, our future is augmented by AI and other things that, one day we'll be typing in, prepare our podcast for Wednesday, and suddenly you and I will just be AI robots. It won't even be us. But they'll be kind of like us. And that is a real...
I hope that I truly believe you can't replace human connection, and I'm standing firm on that.
Oh, my young Padawan learner. Yes, I don't know. I have to agree with the human connection, but with the technology happening today and the general human incapacity to think for themselves, we're entering a different age. And I don't want to be doom and gloom, but certainly when we look at the future, it is interesting how social media and other things will change. We already know of a lot of social media, at least a dozen social media sensations are not even human.
Yeah, it's scary.
They are AI generated. I don't know what you want to call them, bots, and they're actually generating revenues for their companies to represent a company that they're not even human for. So yeah, it is difficult to see what the future is, but soon influencers and personalities will be AI generated to a great degree, because at that point you're creating your own perfect influencer.
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Scary. AI's always scared me a little.
Well, in the world of manufacturing currently, and then for the foreseeable future, we still have humans needed to be able to get those machines running and doing what's got to be done. And I'm happy to be doing. I'm real human, and so are you, to keep growing this this industry for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Steph, thank you for joining us today. It was brilliant having you. I'm glad I was able to rip you out of the back of the show and bring you up into the forefront. This will be an episode we'll never forget.
Yes, it will be on mine forever.
Well, thank you for joining us, Steph. Appreciate it. Our next podcast will be on the 30th of October.
Yep. Hard to believe we're already there.
Excellent. So you don't have to wear a costume. So we don't recommend it. Just come as yourself. And we'll look forward to seeing you on our podcast, and hopefully our audience will join us. And don't forget, you're able to ask us questions throughout the podcast. I should have said that at the beginning, but yes, that is part of the platform, is to be able to take your comments.
Even after, we'll always be checking comments and can circle back, as they say.
Yeah. All right, Steph. Well, you have a brilliant evening. Thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you again on the 30th.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining. Play
Ciao.
Now.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Cutting Time CNC Podcast, where precision meets progress. We hope you've gained valuable insights into CNC manufacturing and are inspired to optimize your processes for efficiency and innovation. For more resources and to connect with Al or Stephanie, visit us at cuttingtimecncpodcast.com. The link is in the show description. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in CNC manufacturing. Make sure you follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite player to get notified about new episodes of the Cutting Time CNC Industry Podcast.